Hi there. Today I'm taking a look at a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, possibly one of the most easily recognised styles of wine in the world. I mean, if you think of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, you probably think of a wine that has lovely aromatics. They're either sort of wonderful and tropical passion fruit or cut grass, and lighter bodied, fresh, crisp, unoaked, that sort of style. But there are producers taking the style further, and one of the wines that I find very interesting is Greywacke Wild Sauvignon. This is the 2020 vintage of that. So rather than just trying to make a simple wine, Kevin Judd, the winemaker, has tried to make a more textural wine that has greater aging potential and more complexity. Kevin Judd, obviously a very famous character in the development of Marlborough's style of Sauvignon Blanc completely. He started in 1985 as the first winemaker of Cloudy Bay, so has probably done more than most people to form the style and the quality of Marlborough and to build its reputation as one of the best places in the world to grow Sauvignon Blanc. The winery Greywacke is Judd's own winery that he started in 2009, and he built his reputation very quickly, and arguably this is one of the most highly respected Sauvignons from the region. So how does it differ? It's a combination of two soil types. One, the sort of the free draining Greywacke from the Wairau Valley around Renwick and places like that, near Blenheim, I guess, where Sauvignon Blanc first started to gain success in growing in New Zealand, combined with sort of fruit from the southern valleys, which has heavier clay soils in general, and so produces sort of more richness in style in a wine. So the combination of the two of those. There's a combination in terms of harvesting as well. Some of it was night harvested by machine, probably on the flatland, to preserve aromatics, to stop the fruit getting too hot and to prevent it oxidizing. Other portions were hand harvested to try and make sure that the selection was better, that any poor quality fruit was removed, that sort of thing. Quite a soft pressing was done at that stage, so you're just selecting the best juice with the best acidity, the highest sugar levels and the best flavour, not the juice from around the pips or near the skin, which can go for other wines at a later date. The juice is settled in tank, probably overnight, and then put into barriques, so small French oak barrels, a proportion of which will be new, so there'll be oak flavour coming in here. But also the fact that indigenous fermentation was allowed to proceed, so the yeasts that had come into the winery from the vineyard or were already established in the winery were just allowed to take over the ferments and to take their time to convert to convert the sugar into alcohol. The result of that is that you will get lots of different barrels fermenting at different rates. You will get different yeast strains taking control of the ferment at different points, and that should give you plenty of blending options, because you get slightly different outcomes with each of them. I guess also that barrel fermenting is going to give you a slightly richer style, because a barrel without temperature control will ferment slightly warmer than a large tank which you would cool. So you're getting a richer set of flavours there anyway. The wine stayed in barrel until just before the next harvest, with the yeast, once it had died, the lees being stirred up to impart richness into the wine, and it also helped feed malolactic conversion, which took place, which you wouldn't normally do in a sort of a simple stainless steel fermented version of Sauvignon Blanc, where you wouldn't want the flavours that produces, and you wouldn't want the softening of the acidity to happen. But no, that was allowed to happen for about 2/3 of the wine here. Having come out of barrel, the wine was put back into tank for 5 months and left again with its yeast, presumably being stirred up through that period, just to gain extra richness and fatness. So plenty of things going on there to layer complexity onto this wine. So let's see how it works out there. You've got a medium to pale yellow colour, not anything hugely notable. When I swirl the wine, there are some legs, but they're not particularly heavy. The wine says it's 13.5% alcohol, so I mean the only other thing that's going to give it viscosity is the lees aging. It's not as if it's sweet or anything. This will be completely dry. So let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? Now, normally for a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, I would expect the aromas to be very pungent, either at one end of the spectrum, sort of tropical fruit, passion fruit, mango, that sort of note there, or at the other end of the spectrum, sort of cut grass, nettles, gooseberry, those sort of greener aromas. This hints at all of those, but actually what's the fore is a sort of a creamy, slightly butterscotch, slightly buttery note. And in there as well, there are fermentation aromas, mineral notes, notes of gunflint, struck match, that sort of note. So they're created by the yeasts during fermentation. There's a lovely richness and an intensity, but it's not quite as bursting and aromatic as you might normally expect. So let's have a taste. The wine has a lovely intensity and harmony. The elements are so well together. There is that sort of buttery, creamy, smooth texture and butterscotchy notes, but underlying there is a sort of a quite ripe mango, maybe to passion fruit sort of note of tropical fruit. There's good fresh acidity there as well, but it's not the tart acidity that you'd often get with a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a much more steely, crisp acidity, not sharp, and that'll be the result of malolactic conversion having happened. The flavours are lasting really well. There's that sort of buttery, rich mid-palate, and then there's a long tail which is sort of starting to show the sort of slight passion fruit notes, etc. But they're not standing out as individual fruit flavours. They're combined with a sort of a butterscotchy note. There are wafts of smokiness and flintiness there as well, but they're all beautifully intertwined. The wine has lovely intensity, it has lovely length of flavour and beautiful balance. I think this is a really interesting wine. In some ways it's a bit of a surprise. It's not what I would normally expect from a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but it goes that bit further. It's clearly a wine that will age for at least 5 years and possibly longer, and it's a wine that would match with heavier, stronger foods, and it would match with them in much more closely, rather than sort of cutting against them. I would pair this with rich river, oily river fish, that sort of thing, or white meats, whereas a normal Sauvignon Blanc I would pair more with sort of shellfish, seafood, salads, that sort of thing that it could play against. And so this is a really interesting wine that I highly recommend trying. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and if you've enjoyed the video, do watch us again. Bye now.